Mary had a little lamb.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
David Crosby was a music legend, a member of two of the most iconic bands of the 1960s.
Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me.
Playing first with the Byrds.
Getting to the point where I go far anymore.
And becoming a founding member of the supergroup Crosby, Stills and Nash, later joined by Neil Young. Also a talented songwriter, Crosby was a rare two-time Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee. Born in Los Angeles in 1941, Crosby dropped out of college to pursue music. He led the life of a true rock star. He battled drug and alcohol addiction and was arrested in the 1980s for drug and weapons charges, talking about those struggles on the Today Show in 1998.
You're walking around with no brains, you do a lot of dumb stuff, and I did, and I make no bones about it. It just makes me all that much more grateful, that I lived through it and came out the other side.
After spending time in jail, Crosby got clean and spent several more decades on the road touring, later making headlines for donating his sperm to fellow singer Melissa Etheridge so she could have children with her partner. Tonight, Crosby's family says the 81-year-old passed away after a long illness, his wife and son there by his side. His wife, Jan, sharing, although he is no longer here with us, his humanity and kind soul will continue to guide and inspire us. His legacy will continue to live on through his legendary music.
Yeah, this is a hard one. This is a very hard one. I know he's 81 years old, and I understand that he's been ill, for quite a long time, and, but what a life. I mean, just amazing music and amazing, fights and bands and just, still writing. Just still putting out, albums at 80. You know what I'm saying? Just there is no playlist that I can find on my particular devices that doesn't include at least one Crosby, Stills, Nash, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Crosby. I don't think I have one playlist, that doesn't have at least one of their songs on it. And then there are playlists that have nothing but their songs on it. It's just an amazing life that he lived. And I got to see them about 1 million times, I think the famous story, the one that I've told before about the time that I saw them was my date. My date for the night was, it was Tim Robbins, who was married at the time to Susan Sarandon. And Tim, I guess she didn't want to go or couldn't go. I don't know. And he asked me, did I want to go? He had these great tickets to see Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young at Madison Square Garden. And it was all 4 of them. So I was like, yes. Oh, yes, I really do want to go. We went, I think we were in the 3rd row, dead center, Madison Square Garden. And being, a kid from Brooklyn and Queens, okay, like I said, I was born in Hakeem Jeffries district and grew up in George Santos's district. Oh, my God. Anyway, I was like, oh, my God, I've never been on the floor in Madison Square Garden. We're always in the nosebleed section or someplace, very, very far away from the stage. And there I was with, Tim Robbins, who you may or may not know is like 6 foot freaking 6. I mean, he's huge. He's very, very tall. Nice, wonderful person, but very, very tall. And so we're standing there and the show starts and it's like, oh my God, I can't believe, and you know what happens with me when I hear music live, and it doesn't matter what it is. Could be Broadway, it could be a rock concert, it could be jazz, it could be jazzercise. It doesn't matter. If it's live, the second I hear like 3 notes of music, I fill up with what I'm assuming is joy, and it bursts out of my face. It bursts out of my face and it comes out of my eyeballs, and it looks like I'm crying, but I'm really, exuding joy. My family has made fun of me for this forever. Like, I will go see a Broadway show that's a comedy, like Shampoo or something like this, where it's a John Waters thing, and it's, going to be hilarious. And the second I hear the orchestra, boom, like, the joy bursts forth, right? And my family just looks at me and go, oh, you are such a freak. Yes, I am. I have that reaction to live music. Anyway, I'm standing there in the third row, and then, I realize that somebody taller is behind Tim Robbins, which is, like crazy. And it's Donald J. Trump. It's Donald J. Trump. And Tim is very happy to be, in front of Donald, blocking his view. I mean, it was just one of those moments where, you just thought, this is my life now. This is my life. It just seemed sort of kind of extraordinary and sort of kind of normal all at the same time. And the music was phenomenal. It was just outrageous. I remember Stephen Stills, singing Almost Cut My Hair and singing it in my face, like to me. And it was really an amazing thing. But I've seen them here in Florida. I've seen them all whenever they come through. I always went. And so it's a terrible, terrible loss, to think. And while he's gone, his sperm does live on. So that report there insinuated that Melissa Etheridge, who is a decent part of my life too, that Melissa Etheridge was the recipient of the David Crosby sperm. No, it was Julie. It was her partner at the time, Julie Cypher, who, through artificial insemination, was able to take David Crosby's donated spermatozoa and have it artificially inseminated into her. And they had 2 kids that way. And, Crosby always said that, he would stay out of it. And he did. I mean, it was very respectful. He, never meddled. I mean, it's just, it's an incredible life, an amazing legacy. He blew out his liver, I think, in 1994, some crazy thing. And he got a new liver. He got a brand new liver. And the joke back then was there must be 50 ways to cleave your liver. I swear, it was such a crazy thing. But 81 years old. They say he was ill for a long time. I have no idea what the illness was. I know that he was battling a whole bunch of stuff, but I have no earthly idea. As far as, what kind of a person he was, I have no idea. Okay? I really have no clue. I had a lot of interaction with Neil Young because of Willie Nelson, and the Farm Aid, extravaganzas that Annie always invited me on. I'm better friends with Annie than I am with any of them, Annie Nelson. So, but Neil Young, I know, and he's a wonderful, wonderful person. He's an excellent father. He's an amazing husband. So him I can vouch for. I met Graham Nash at a photography exhibition. He's quite a photographer, Graham Nash is. And he had a showing of his photographs in New York at that same time. Again, Annie invited me, and I got to see the photographs from like the Laurel Canyon days with, Judy, I always blank out on that, Joni Mitchell and Judy Collins and all those people from that era. Now, I was too young, yeah, once I was. Once I was young. I was too young for the 60s. My era was really 70s, 80s, and, my music is hair bands, okay, just saying. But like I said, the legacy of music that they produced and left, or that he left, is it's unbelievable. So for all of you who will have a couple of beers tonight and, listen to music, I'm pretty sure we'll all be listening to the same damn thing. Unfortunately for us, I can't play music on this here show because we broadcast it on the YouTube, which sucks. Really, it sucks. I do it because the chat room would, melt down if I didn't. But we pay a heavy price for that. We get flagged in, where we got flagged the other day? We got flagged in Afghanistan. What? Yeah. Your video is not suitable to be played in the following countries. Afghanistan. Really? Bite me. So anyway, rest in peace, and thank you for the peace, love, and harmony. Thank you.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randi Rhodes Show.
After After an 8-month internal investigation, not a whole lot was found. The Supreme Court revealing they still don't know who was behind that bombshell leak that overturned Roe v. Wade. The report did suggest it's unlikely the leak was a result of a hack, but perhaps came from the nearly 100 employees who did have access to the draft opinion. Now, this is really interesting as well. Some of the people interviewed admitted to investigators that they had told their partner about the draft opinion, but it's still unclear whether the 9 justices themselves were actually interviewed. You'll recall that the justices called this one of the worst breaches in the trust of the court's history. Investigators did recommend a couple things, Savannah: stiffer security and a much smaller distribution list.
I mean, this is crazy, okay? The Supreme Court was, telling the United States, the people here and around the world, that the leak of the Roe v. Wade, the Dobbs decision, the leak of that decision, the draft decision that Alito penned, actually put Alito's life in danger. He said that the leak of this decision that is so unpopular, okay, that only Republican states are, happy about it, and not the people who live in the Republican states, but the governors who are riding this, a Dobbs decision to what they feel will be a victory in the primary season with the crazy base voters. Anyway, he said that his life had been threatened, that he was, scared that he'd be assassinated. And he, the Fox News and the OANs and the Newsmax, we have to get to the bottom of this and find out who told Politico, because that's where the leak was given. It was given to Politico. Who did that? Who did that? We have a right to know. We want to know. Well, there's an investigation. Well, the Supreme Court decided that they would investigate themselves. Now, here's the opening question that you should have about this. If Alito felt that his life was being threatened and that he was being targeted for assassination, don't you think that should have been referred to the FBI, who has professional investigators who could get to the bottom of it, who could figure out, what the hell, who? They didn't do that. They put the Supreme Court has a marshal or something like that, and they decided that Miss Curley, that's her name, Gail Curley, she's the marshal of the Supreme Court, who has absolutely no investigative background. She's not a police officer. She's not an agent of any law enforcement, apparatus. Anyway, she is the marshal of the Supreme Court. They said, okay, she can investigate it. We'll put her in charge of it. Okay. And she came up empty. She has no idea. No idea. Of course, they did not interview the justices themselves, which I find fascinating when you consider that one of the justices is married to a very, very active activist. I honestly, and one of them is like a handmaid of praise or some, weird thing, right? But Alito said that his life was in danger. He was being threatened, and they didn't go to the law enforcement. They didn't go to the FBI. They didn't report it to for investigation to any law enforcement at all. And so this investigation into the leak, which they said was a bombshell and a breach of confidence and a breach of trust, and they couldn't figure out who the leaker was. They couldn't figure it out. She couldn't figure it out. Gail Curley couldn't figure it out. And so, like some of the FBI investigators who were interviewed yesterday, they said this was a sham investigation. They don't want to know. They didn't want to know, okay?
When is an investigation really not an investigation? When you're told what you can and can't do. You can't do what you need to do or talk to the people you need to talk to solve the investigation, and when the investigation isn't conducted by professional investigators. Let's level set here, because there have been some things said that I think we need to clarify. Number one, the U.S. Marshal Service did not conduct this investigation. Right. This investigation was conducted by someone called the Marshal of the Supreme Court. Right. I'm sure she's a wonderful person. Right. But she has no law enforcement training or experience. Right. She's in charge of securing the building called the Supreme Court building and its justices. That's what she does. That's who they gave this to in this most egregious breach of security in history of the Supreme Court, allegedly, as the court statement says. Something else that didn't happen here. If you want to do a real serious leak investigation, You're going to talk literally to every person who may have had access to whatever it is that leaked. From what we can see so far, while they may have talked to 100 people, they didn't talk to ex-clerks. They didn't talk to the very universe of people who may have done the leaking and then left the court to go on to, as they all do, some great legal job. They didn't talk to those people. They didn't call the FBI because you know what would happen? Then a real case would have happened.
Right.
They would have actually had criminal process. Someone stole government property. Someone mishandled government records. Potentially crime. They could have had subpoenas of former clerks and former employees. They would have had that leverage over them. They could have subpoenaed phone carriers and internet providers, and they could have seen who was talking to whom and when at the media platform that obtained this information.
Political.
All of that could have been done. We still have, according to the New York Times reporting today on this, we have no evidence that the justices themselves were interviewed. And let's understand something. This person called the Marshal of the Supreme Court, her boss is the court. They pay her salary.
Yeah. So I'm sure she had absolutely no fear or favor, when she decided to undertake this massive law enforcement investigation of a government document, the draft opinion for Dobbs, an earth-shattering opinion that changed the way women live in this country. That was leaked to Politico, and they didn't really care. She said, well, she wrote, too many members of court staff have access to sensitive documents. There's no universal written policy or guidance on safeguarding draft opinions. And so she urged the court to address vulnerabilities in the court's current method for destroying sensitive documents, and that the information security policies that the court follows are outdated and need to be updated and clarified. Ooh. But you had this apparatus of right-wing, lunatic, fringy news going crazy, saying that, oh, my God, Alito, somebody stole his draft, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. No, they don't want to get to the bottom of it. They don't want the truth of what happened here, okay? Because, if they had the truth of what happened here, then they would have a name, and that name could be, I don't know, Clarence Thomas, or his wife, or Alito himself, or it is so disgusting and disgraceful what's going on, and that's another institution that trust has been almost erased. I think they have a 26% approval rating. The Supreme Court does. This is one of the courts where we say, well, the Supreme Court will decide, and we were all good with it. No longer. Now everybody's like, ever since, we had the Donald, ever since we had the McConnell, ever since we had the holding open of a seat because Obama was president and they didn't want him to get the pick, right? Ever since then, the courts belong to the Republicans.
Connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All right, everybody, it's $5 Friday. $5 Friday. Do you know what that is? That is your chance to join the Free Speech TV Sustaining Donor program. It's a community of people who agree to give $5 every month to support Free Speech TV. Just $5 every single month. So if you want to sign up, you could do that at freespeech.org. It's right there on your screen, freespeech.org. Or you could call 877-378-8669 and say, yes, I'm in. I'll do $5 every single month. And whoever is one of the first five every half hour to call 877-378-8669, they will get a mystery box. I don't know what's in it. They don't tell me because it's a mystery. But you will get a mystery box in the mail as a little thank you from us here at Free Speech TV, where all we want to do is keep this critical network alive and kicking and increase our impact when it comes to fighting for things like democracy, like that. We can't do this without you. We need you desperately. We are grateful to all of you who are already sustaining donors. If you're not, please become one today and visit us at freespeech.org. Thank you very much. Jeannie in Alabama.
Hey, Randy.
Hi.
How you doing, hon?
Good.
You know, Tom Hartman was talking the other day about the clocks in our heads, okay? And it's true, okay? And if the Democrats and Republicans would synchronize their clocks, okay, they could probably fix America's clock heads, okay?
I don't know
Trump,
what
the
you're
worst
talking
mistake-
about with clocks in my head.
Yeah, you know, we all have clocks in our heads.
We
you know,
do.
we think. We all think, okay? We think with the second hands that future is changed. Tom Hartman spoke about it.
Well, you
okay?
should call Tom about this theory of clocks in your head.
Oh, please. He can't get through it.
What?
You know? He's far too selective. He stopped his political thought.
Okay.
Yeah, you know? But you have to allow your brain to change with future.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Whatever. But Trump, the worst mistake he ever made was telling us all this lie about ISIS. Give me a break. Okay?
Okay.
And the Ecuadorians, the government, the gangs are in full control.
Okay, all right then. What a great start to $5 Friday. Kurt in Ohio.
Hi, Randy. Thank you for taking the call, and I'm glad everyone's feeling better. To correct that lady real quickly,
Mm-hmm.
the biggest mistake Trump ever did was go down the escalator. But hey, you were talking about David Crosby, and I actually did see him at Kent State University back in 1997.
Mm-hmm.
You sound very enthusiastic. I'm boring you.
I mean, I'm sitting here trying to talk about, the Supreme Court's ruse and how, they have released a decision that changes the way women in this country live their lives.
Okay, I'll talk about that. I can talk about that.
And you want to talk about a concert in 1997.
Well, you were talking about, and I'm not trying to argue. I was just trying to say you were talking about David Crosby earlier.
Yes,
and
he died, and it's a sad, a sad loss. I mean, the guy left an amazing catalog of songs that are, everything from, calming and love songs to, like the Kent State song, Ohio, I mean,
exactly.
It's an amazing body of work. And,
it is. It sure is. But as far as the Supreme Court goes, you're right. You're absolutely right. This is scary stuff. Women, I never thought I'd live to see the day that women are going to be a second-class citizen. And here we are going on a year of this. And I often do wonder, was it Alito? Was it Clarence Thomas? Was it Ginny Thomas that did all this stuff?
That leaked? We'll never know because they're not interested in telling you. They're just...
like I was just going to say, too, why did the investigators not interrogate the 9 justices?
Because there were no investigators. It's the marshal of the court who's supposed to be taking care of the buildings. Okay, that's her job. She has no background in law enforcement. She has no background in investigatory, procedure. She's not the FBI. He's sitting there saying, my life was threatened, okay? And yet nobody calls the FBI to say that one of there's 9 of them. That's it. In the whole world, there are 9 Supreme Court justices. In the whole freaking world, there are 9 United States Supreme Court justices. One of them says his life was threatened and nobody was called to investigate that threat. Really? I find that fascinating.
I find that disgusting that they wouldn't come in and investigate.
The problem that they're having is that nobody trusts them any longer. Nobody believes anything that they decide anymore. The idea that after 50 years of relying on a certain sense of privacy in this country, Roe v. Wade was decided based on a woman's right to privacy in her own person, in her own body, in her own medical decisions. And that suddenly they packed the court with these, crazy Opus Dei, evangelical, very specific kind of Catholicism, not the kind of Catholicism that, your neighbor or, my friends when I was growing up practiced, but something very different, something very invasive, something very controlling, something very much in your face kind of doctrine is being deployed in this country against people who don't agree that that's the kind of, thing they want deployed against them, and they're getting away with it. They're getting freaking away with it. And then to, draw attention to themselves in this weird way and say that they've been threatened on top of it for making this decision, to make them the victims, when it's truly the women in this country who have lost their right to privacy. They have lost their civil rights, but they're the victim. They're always the victim. It's always about them, and we should always look out for them, and we should always say, take it seriously. Somebody was after him, and somebody was after the Supreme Court justices, and they're all, being targeted. And that's bull crap. We were targeted. We were targeted with their stupid decision. And now you got, a year later, 17 states? 17, and we don't even know what they want from they want a 6-week ban, they want a 15-week ban, what do they want? And now that we're a year into it, women are unable to get medical care because doctors are scared to death. They don't even know what the law is anymore. They have no idea. Can they save a woman's life? Can they not save a woman's life? If a woman has a fetus that has no skull, does the doctor just let her have to get septic, or does the doctor have to just let her deliver? I mean, how does this work now? No one even freaking knows. But they're the victims, you see. They're the victims. And they needed an investigation. And they needed an investigation to be done by, the superintendent. Like the lady who makes sure the boilers work in the winter. That's who's going to investigate. This was such a non-investigation. And they did it. They set themselves up because they wanted to be seen as victims. If you really wanted to know who talked to Politico, subpoena the freaking phone records or the emails, and then you'll know. They don't want to know. They don't want to know.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
This is a non-investigation. Because at the end of the day, if you have a Supreme Court justice who says that they are threatened by the consequences of this, that there are life-threatening situations that could be involved here, that ratchets up this level of investigation on its face. That just you immediately want to know what's going on. But I don't think they want to know. To Laura's, again, good reporting here, I don't think they want to know, because I think they already know.
Huh.
I think they already know enough to know who, what, where, when, and why inside that building. And the worst outcome here is not a judicial one. It is a political one. It is one that steeps this building and its justices in a political vortex that they cannot escape from. Sitting at 26% approval among the American people because of the prior bad acts and opinions and how people are perceiving how this court is operating. You layer on top of this someone within their own ranks, whether it is a staffer or a justice, God forbid, which I do not take off the table here.
Right.
Leakiness for nefarious political reasons, whether to create outcome A or create outcome B around this opinion, that does not create an avenue to further entrust or garner the trust of the American people. So they don't want to know that.
No, they do not want to know that, because they did it themselves. And by they, I mean the justices. One of them or two of them decided that it would be good if they would leak the opinion ahead of the opinion. I think the leak came in February and the opinion came in May. And I guess they were trying to get women used to the idea that they had no privacy rights. And they decided that it would be good to get the draft opinion out there. And they don't want to know, they don't want you to know that that was a plan that they had to do that, to get us used to the idea that we were going to go back to the 1860s. Now, the reason why people stopped trusting them in the first place was because when Obama got a pick, when Scalia died, and there was a seat to be filled by a democratically elected president twice, okay, The Republican Senate, headed by one Mitch McConnell, decided to hold that seat open for 11 months. 11 months. And, you know, that firebrand that Obama wanted to put in the seat was Merrick Garland. Oh, he's a crazy, Democrat, usurper of power. Mm-hmm. And Mitch McConnell just did not want a Democratic president to get the pick. So he held the seat open for 11 months. And people who cared about this seat, people who cared about our rights to privacy, people who cared about voting rights, people who cared about the Janus decision, meaning they were going to break up unions. They didn't want anybody to be able to, they wanted people who were not part of a union shop to work in a union shop and not pay dues, but get all the benefit. I mean, they've been so ugly about it, okay? So ugly about their preference for big business over, large labor and evangelical views of this country over ordinary, women who want control over their own person, their own bodies, their own medical decision. And so when they held that seat open, everybody smelled a rat. That's number one. And number two, when they finally got the president that they dreamt of, who would say, here's, they could hand a list to, and that's what they did. With Donald Trump, remember the reason why Mitch McConnell supported Donald Trump, because obviously Mitch McConnell thinks Donald Trump is a horrible person. He thinks that Donald Trump he didn't even know they made them that stupid. Okay, that's how Mitch McConnell views Donald Trump. But Mitch McConnell was able to hand a list from the Federalist Society to Donald Trump and say, this is the list from which you will pick Supreme Court justices. And Donald Trump was like, fine, I don't really give a damn. I don't give a crap, okay? I'm doing this so that I can enrich myself. I don't care what you do. I couldn't care less. Jared's going to walk away at the end with $2 billion. Ivanka's going to have, communist Chinese patents for her, for her shoes and her, purses. And, I'm going to leverage, the presidency into, something where I can steal is what I want to do. So you want these justices? No problem. None whatsoever. Well, Neil Gorsuch came along. Neil Gorsuch and Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett, these people lied under oath during their confirmation hearings. They literally lied. Oh, Roe v. Wade, it's precedent. And with Casey on top of Roe, it's double precedent. It's precedent on precedent. And I would never overturn, precedent. This is what Neil Gorsuch's testimony was. This is what Kavanaugh's testimony was. Amy was a little more transparent. Okay, where she said, well, I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, we could take a look at it. We could review it. But they lied under oath. And then as soon as they got in there, what did they do? They overturned Roe v. Wade. They overturned it. Okay, and then to be the victim on top of it, to make their decision, not their fault. They had no choice. We were threatened. And then they leaked the thing to get everybody used to the idea that women were not first-class citizens anymore, that women didn't have autonomy, that women didn't have privacy, that women didn't have the choice, about when they wanted to, reproduce. No choice at all. And, you follow this line to its logical conclusion, and in vitro fertilization and all the IVF, because you have to destroy a couple of embryos to do IVF. That becomes illegal. Nobody is down with it. So they had to make themselves into the victim. This is sad, and this is sick, and this is twisted, and this is why people don't trust the court anymore, which is really, really tragic. People don't trust Congress anymore because the first thing that Congress did when they got control of the Republicans, this new backcrap crazy Congress, is they put insurrectionists who shouldn't even be allowed to serve in Congress on the Homeland Security Committee. They put insurrectionists on the Oversight Committee. They put insurrectionists on the Science. They put world heavyweight champion liars, like George Santos, on the Science Committee. I mean, of course you can't trust them. You can't trust them to do anything. Their word means nothing. They aren't reliable, legislators. They're not people who should be in charge of anything. They shouldn't be in charge of getting me my morning paper in my driveway. And that's why people don't trust it. And they're happy with that result. See, this is the twisted truth. They want people to have no trust or faith in any of our institutions. Because once that is sealed and signed and delivered and people say, I don't care about having a Congress because they're all a bunch of whatever. I don't care about having a Supreme Court because they're all a bunch of whatever. I don't care about having a Senate because they're all a bunch of whatever. And I don't have any faith in the presidency anymore because the president is above the law and he could do whatever he wants and nobody's ever going to prosecute him for anything he does ever. And once that happens to all three branches, that's the end of democracy in this country. And that's why it's so important that as you see the chipping away, as you see the distrust seep in, as you see the distrustful behavior and the disloyalty to the Constitution seep into every nook and cranny of what we consider our pillars of democracy, you have to start screaming. You have to do something differently. You have to first orient yourself and know it's happening, and then organize around it and make sure that this next couple of years is an anomaly, that this next couple of years, which is going to be bizarre. You know what they're talking about now, the Republicans? Now, you understand that we have a fail-safe, okay? We have some security in the fact that Joe Biden is the president, and today is inauguration day, right? Today's the 20th. So he is right at his halfway mark in his presidency. And so, he is literally the brick wall between us and them. Anything that they want to do, he would veto. There's no question that he would veto, any legislation that, allows them to do a default or any legislation that allows them to do this new thing that they want.
Mary had a little man. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Like many Americans, I was disappointed to see the very first bill that the House Republicans, and Nancy, you probably rolling over when you saw it, are bringing to the floor that would help the wealthy people and big corporations cheat on their taxes at the expense of ordinary middle-class taxpayers. All these new IRS agents we have is because they fired a lot of them and a lot of retiring. And guess what? Who needs serious agents to know what they're doing and not doing? The billionaires, the multi-millionaires. And according to nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, this one bill alone will add $114 billion to the deficit. This is their first bill. And they campaigned on inflation. They didn't say if elected their plan was to make inflation worse. Plus, House Republicans introduced another bill on the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, blocking action that would help lower gasoline prices and help consumers. They're preparing to vote on a third bill. They want a national sales tax.
Yeah.
Now, let me say this again. I know if I said that, it sounds like, what's Biden making up here? They want to raise tax in the middle class by taxing thousands of everyday items, from groceries, gasoline, clothing, cutting taxes for the wealthiest, because they want to supplant the money lost from taxes on the millionaires and billionaires with a sales tax on virtually everything in the country.
Yep.
What in God's name is that all about, other than what is obvious?
Right.
They want working class folks to be paying another 10, 20% in their taxes, depending on where they live and how they're spending the money. And they're going to reduce taxes for the super wealthy. Now, if we didn't see it, I think this making this stuff up.
Yeah, but it is a piece of legislation that they actually have, and it's a national sales tax at 30%. That's the legislation, 30%. So you would pay 30% on everything from groceries to gasoline to, anything and everything. A piece of plywood, 30%, right? And think about it this way. So if there's this national sales tax on everything, then when companies buy raw materials to make things with, so they have to pay 30% on the raw material and then pass the 30% on to you, and then you pay 30% at the retail. I mean, it is so regressive. Put it this way. This is a nice, easy example. Let's say Mary makes $300 a week, okay? And her grocery bill is $100. And she has to pay a sales tax on her groceries of $6. So that's 2% of her earnings, okay? Julie has a weekly salary of $1,500. She buys $100 worth of groceries. She pays a sales tax of $6. That's 0.4% of her earnings. So that's why it's regressive, okay? It is the most bizarre solution, but they want to do it to get rid of all federal taxes, to get rid of estate taxes, to get rid of individual and corporate income taxes, and to abolish the IRS. Now, I don't know if, the Tooth Fairy is going to be responsible for, overseeing the collection of the 30% sales tax that is now on every single thing that you buy in a consumer-driven economy. I mean, they are some twisted mofos. They are literally, they can't think their way out of or into any good ideas. They can't think their way into a plan of legislation. And so they just keep vomiting up these crazy ideas that have zero chance of ever passing through the Senate and landing on Biden's desk. And they just keep on doing it. And even, Grover Norquist, when he was asked, listen, Grover Norquist, this man, he used to be about this fair tax. He used to say a flat tax was a good idea, okay? It's a tax that discourages consumer spending in a country where 70% of all of our GDP, our gross domestic product, is as a result of people buying things, okay? And it will discourage people from buying things. On the other hand, taxing the rich doesn't discourage them from wanting to be wealthy. It never did. It never will. But a 30% sales tax on everything will discourage us from buying groceries. You realize that if you got taxed on everything you bought, tax day wouldn't be April 15th. It would be every day. But the worst part of the entire year would be Christmas. That would be the worst time of year for everybody, because that's when you go out and spend the lion's share of your money for your children, lion's share of your money for your husband, for your wife, for whatever. I mean, Christmas would become like the worst time of the year for the poor and the working class. Ebenezer Scrooge would love it. This is just so unbelievable. I mean, this plan. So Grover Norquist, he called this plan a political gift to Biden and the Democrats. Why? Because it's so horrible. That's why. This is a horrid, horrible, really bad plan. 30% on everything you buy. And we all tend to buy things when we're hungry. You see what I mean? Anyway, this is just, it's bizarre. They are bizarre. And Biden's like, listen, let them do it. Let them do it, The
House has elected a new speaker. I can call him and congratulate him. I'm ready to work with him. Or any Republican Congress to make progress for the American people. But like many Americans, I was disappointed that the very first bill the Republicans in the House of Representatives passed would help wealthy people and big corporations cheat on their taxes at the expense of ordinary middle-class taxpayers. And it would add $114 billion to the deficit. Their very first bill. House Republicans campaigned on inflation. They didn't say if elected their plan was to make inflation worse. Plus, House Republicans have introduced another bill, blocking action that would help lower gas prices and help consumers. And on top of that, House Republicans are preparing to vote on a national sales tax bill. National sales tax. That's a great idea. It would raise taxes on the middle class by taxing thousands of everyday items from groceries to gas, while cutting taxes for the wealthiest Americans. And if I'm not mistaken, what they've introduced, it also would totally eliminate the IRS.
Yep.
Feels good, except all going to be sales tax. Go home and tell your moms. They're going to be really excited about that.
Yeah.
Come on. Is this how House Republicans are starting a new term?
Yes.
Cutting taxes for billionaires?
Yes.
Raising taxes for working families?
Yes.
Making inflation worse?
Yes.
Well, let me be very clear. If any of these bills make it to my desk, I will veto them. I will flat veto them. I'm ready to work with Republicans, not this kind of stuff. Right. If they try to cut Social Security and Medicare, which Americans have been paying into every paycheck since they've ever got their first paycheck, I'll use my veto pen to stop that as well. But if Republicans want to work together on real solutions, so lower inflation, create more jobs, build an economy that works for everyone, I'm ready.
Right. This is just this is horrible. I mean, the bottom line is you will benefit every time you inherit a mass fortune. Every time you inherit a huge estate, everybody, you'll benefit, but you'll lose every time you need a cup of coffee. You'll lose every time you need a ham sandwich. You'll lose every time you need lunch. You'll lose every time you need dinner. You'll lose every time you want to buy a pair of socks. In our consumer-based economy. I mean, this is like a recipe for a recession. A permanent one. Abolish the IRS. Abolish the estate tax. Abolish corporate income tax. I mean, we're trying to enforce a corporate we're trying to make an alternative minimum tax for corporate. We just did a 15%, right, where you have to pay something. And they want to get rid of even that and pass it on to you and me. Good luck being on a fixed income with this.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
If I told you in 2023 a party was going to run on a national sales tax, well, that's how they're starting their new term. Cutting taxes for billionaires. And by the way, the number of billionaires went up during the recession. Up. They didn't go down, they went up. Raising taxes on working families, making inflation worse. Let me be clear. If any of these bills happen to reach my desk, I will veto them. Any of them.
Any of them.
What I was saying during this last election cycle, this off-year election, this next thing, everybody said, they got to be making this up, Biden. Well, they're going to continue to cut Social Security or Medicare, which Americans have been paying into it with every single paycheck they've earned since they first got their first job when they were 16 years old. But if Republicans want to work together on real, that's what they want. They're going to argue that the thing is that for them to be sustained, you're going to have to change the way in which it works. Instead of putting more money in to guarantee Social Security, they're going to kind of cut Social Security, cut Medicare. Look, if they want to work together in real solutions, to lower inflation, create jobs, and build an economy that works for everybody, I'm ready.
Honestly, we are ahead of the news, as you know. But you could see this attack on Social Security, Medicare, the sales tax, doing away with the IRS from outer space. Okay, you could see it coming from outer freaking space. This is where they're going. This is what they're doing, and they're going to cause an enormous amount of chaos in order to steal it, in order to do it. And I've told you this forever, that this is what they want to do with their power. This is what they've always wanted to do with their power. Bush, he privatized a whole chunk of Medicare, a whole chunk of it. They're not done. They're not done stealing. They're not done redistributing from the bottom and the middle to the top. Okay. It's so interesting that now they care about deficits. Now they're so concerned. They're just so, nervous about, all this money. They don't want to raise the debt limit. But they're the ones who voted to give away $7.9 trillion under Donald Trump. This is not a both sides thing. You know, Joe Biden lowered the deficit by $1.7 trillion, which coincidentally is the same exact amount that Donald Trump gave unpaid for to the top 1%. $1.7 trillion in tax cuts. Well, we've paid that back. We have. But Donald Trump spent almost $8 trillion in his 4 years, as president. And now all of it, and Mitch McConnell was telling deficits don't matter. They don't matter. Now all of a sudden, oh my God, we have to hold every American hostage and, threaten to have a global freaking meltdown, by, causing people to understand that America is no longer a reliable investment, that treasuries aren't, they don't represent the full faith and credit of the United States because the full faith and credit of the United States doesn't exist. We don't pay our bills anymore. We're a deadbeat nation. I mean, this is what they have in mind. This is where they're going. This is the road that they're taking. And they keep showing it to you. In their very first bill, let's get rid of the IRS. Let's get rid of that. Let's, work everybody up about the IRS is coming after the middle class. Bull crap. 47% of us don't even pay income taxes, okay? Some of us actually pay and get a refund. And so the idea here was to get some more customer service representatives and to hire some really good accountants who could go through complex, wealthy billionaires' tax returns and understand them and hold them to account. Honestly, their ideas are so tried and worn and disastrous for middle-class people, for upper-middle-class people, for the working poor, for anybody that isn't in the top 1/10 of 1% will not do well in a Republican economy. David in North Miami.
Randi, you're messy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. With Crosby, Stills, and Nash, for Gen Xers like me, I think of their song for the movie War Games. It's not in it, but you can find the music video. The movie that warned us not just against nukes, but how maybe older people staring at computer screens not knowing what they're looking at is a bad idea, sort of what we saw in 2016.
What song is this?
The song is called War Games from, it was on the radio at the time, but it's not in the actual movie. But it's Crosby, Stills, and Nash song.
I don't know that song.
So, well, that's why I'm calling you about it. The movie that warned us sometimes young people have to show us what's actually going on, which is what the young people did in 2020. This is the Matthew Broderick, Ellie Sheedy movie.
Oh, that movie. That's an oldie. What Gen X. Oh, so I always thought Gen X is like 90s.
I was born in 71, so.
Are you Gen X?
Lucky me. Right.
You are?
So it's a dirty job, but someone has to do it. Exactly. So we grew up with the early computers, but also remember what came before. And so my point is, this was back when even Ronald Reagan saw the movie.
Okay, so yeah, I remember that movie.
Because Crosby, Stills, and Nash and his death, so that's what that group means to older, to Gen Xers like me who weren't around.
That's ridiculous. Jessica is a Gen Xer, and she knows everything by Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. She knows everything by Neil Young. She knows. Well, yeah, I mean, but you're insinuating that people that were born, in the 70s don't know Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young except from the Matthew Broderick movie War Games? That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
My point is that they were part of something that was sort of the crossroads of generations. Even Ronald Reagan saw the movie and realized, maybe computers can be a problem. Maybe we should look into that.
Ronald Reagan.
So he saw the movie War Games. It's mentioned in the book Dark Territory, and he got him interested in cybersecurity.
What are we talking about?
Because of Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Oh, my God. All right, Charlie in New Jersey.
Okay, Randi.
What?
My question is, why doesn't Biden make his top priority packing the Supreme Court. At least 2 more
Packing
judges.
the Supreme Court? Because Congress has
Yeah,
to
pack-
increase the number of seats.
Yeah, why is it?
He
why don't they
did.
just
He
do
did
that?
put Ketanji Brown Jackson in there. How soon we forget?
Yeah, that's the real successor to Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
But you can't pack the courts without Congress, expanding the number of seats.
All right, then they'll probably get lost in the filibuster. Damn.
What? No, you can't filibuster Supreme Court nominees.
Isn't that what McConnell did?
No. He just refused to have confirmation hearings. Okay, all right. I give up. I actually give up. Good luck, everybody. Go with God.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randy, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All right, everybody. It's $5 Friday, which is an ask that you become a $5 a month contributor to Free Speech TV to support the Free Speech TV staff so that everybody can get paid. And, you just do $5 every single month. You pledge that. And in that case, we know how much we're going to get, and it helps us do some of the accounting ahead of time. So if you are up to be a sustaining donor with a $5 a month pledge, please do call us at 877-378-8669, or you can donate online at freespeech.org and click, $5 and that you'd like to do it every single month. I will tell you that the first 5 every half hour that do this, that become a $5 Friday sustaining donor, will get a mystery box in the mail. I don't know what's in it because it's a mystery, but they will send it to you to say thank you for helping us, keep this critical network alive. Obviously, we need more information, not less. Oh, my God. So thanks for your donations today for $5 Friday. All right, Brother David.
You who are on the road must have a code that you can live by and so become yourself, because the past is just a goodbye. Teach your children well that a father's hell did slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams. The one they pick's the one you'll know by. Don't you ever ask them why. If they told you, you would cry. So just look at them and sigh and know they love you. I haven't been this verklempt, sister.
Yeah, right.
Since maybe Sondheim, 2 years or 3 years, whatever it's been now. And before that, it's the 1-2 punch of Bowie and Prince in the same summer. And then I have to go back to being backstage at the Las Vegas Hilton in the Liberace show when Jerry Stern ran in and said, John Lennon was shot outside the Dakota. This is the fabric of our lives.
Say what now? What happened?
I was performing in a show with the Young Americans the night John Lennon got shot. I'm talking about this epoch of a thing that is so part of our culture, and this a part of my childhood. Yeah, wow. Rest in peace.
War games.
Yeah, well, rise in power.
I mean, what?
Yeah, that was, well,
I mean, groping, people, groping.
Anywho,
yeah.
I left the entirety of that song. That's still my favorite. I met Graham Nash once. I never got to meet Crosby.
I've never met Crosby either. I know Neil Young fairly well, and I met Graham Nash a few times. I know his photography because I was invited to the show. I mean, but I don't know David Crosby. I have no idea. You know what I mean? It's just the body of work. It's just the catalog, the amount of. The amount of entertainment, the amount of singable songs, the amount he's like the architect of that kind of harmony, which then bled into other bands like the Eagles and.
That's my point. That was the point I was trying to make.
Yeah, it's like the Eagles and even some of my.
The Doobie Brothers, all of them.
See, Pat Simmons, I know him.
There you go.
Yeah.
But I put that on the chat room. Hi, chat room. Yeah, it's the Friday matching thing. You know what to do. Back really quickly to President Pop. When you described Obama as history, painting him as a rose bush between two ever larger piles of poop, at this point, President Pop's going to be the lonely little petunia in the onion patch. And we have to rally around him because this is just it's transparently insane and transparently.
Listen, I hate to tell you, for people who don't find him inspiring as a speaker or whatever, he is the bulwark. He is the literal brick wall between the United States failing like in an extraordinary way and not failing in an extraordinary way. All that's protecting us from this lunacy that is the Republican Party of today is a somewhat sane Senate, okay, that it does include Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema,
I was
believe
about to
it
say
or not.
demi-sane
Right.
Senate. Yeah.
It's like a demi-sane. Yeah, that's right. And then, you have the president of the United States who's like, no, I'm not doing this on the back of the middle class. Okay, that's never going to happen. I will never do it. So that's kind of where we are, And when people call up and they like, well, why doesn't he pack the courts? Seriously, people, wake up and understand how your government freaking works. For starters, he has confirmed more judges than Trump did, okay? And people don't even want to give him credit for that. But if you want to increase the size of the Supreme Court, which is probably a good solution for where we're at here with these 3 lunatics that Trump got to put on there, then you need a Congress that would do that, that would say, well, there's 13 district courts. There really should be 13 Supremes, because that makes sense. And that's what should happen. The Congress has increased the size of the Supreme Court 7 times before. It's not a new idea. It's an idea that keeps pace with the population of the United States. Okay. And everyone that wants to know it should know it and can know it. And it should factor into who you vote for in 2 years.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm like so done trying to talk to people about basics. I really am.
Same. I'm right there with you, sister. I had somebody come in the store the other day, and they saw the Biden action figure, the one I sent you for the holidays.
I got it.
And he went, "Why don't you have one that's Biden sucks?" And I just looked at him.
Biden sucks. Biden is the safety mechanism.
He's all that's. I was about to say he's all that's holding us together.
He's the parachute. Okay, he's what it is. I mean, they want to throw us out of an airplane, and maybe some of us are adventurous and say, "Yeah, I'll do that." But you want a parachute? No. Well, he's it. He's what you got.
Exactly, and given a heartbeat away, that's why she must be protected at all costs. Because, boom. But right now, he's what we got, and I'm with him all the way. And I think a lot of people that are on the fence or whatever, how can you be on the fence here? It is so transparent. It's either this country moves forward and lurches back, or it falls in the crater.
Right. Those are your choices.
Exactly. I love you always.
Love you more. Thank you. No, seriously. I mean, you've got to start to understand where we are. And how freaking dangerous this new Congress. I mean, these are lunatics. These are fringe people. These are not people who graduated high school. Okay, Santos is a complete and utter fraud. He said, "Oh, people elected me." Nobody elected you. They elected a guy who graduated Baruch College. They elected a guy who, went to a prep school. They elected a guy who managed $1.5 billion in assets. Not you. You invented that person. They did that. They voted for a person that doesn't exist. This is madness. This is literal madness. And now, the Republican Party on Long Island, oh, he's not part of us. What, you never bothered to do a background check on this guy? You just let him run? Please, spare me. That did not happen. Now, I will say the Democrats are responsible, too, because they didn't do any opposition research on this Santos dude. Okay, Lauren Boebert was like the only lunatic that had a challenger because some guy realized that she was dangerous. You got her kids being indoctrinated into a gun culture. 5-year-olds being indoctrinated into a gun culture. 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds roaming around the hallways in freaking apartment buildings in Indiana with daddy's gun. With daddy's gun. In a diaper with a gun. 6-year-olds shooting their freaking teachers. If that's not critical mass for you, I don't know what is.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Hey, y'all, all that gas stove hysteria last week got me to thinking about the role of government and how dumb people are. You know, first of all, I got a gas stove. I'm not that worried about any of that on account of I'm sane and real problems exist. But some people got so ginned up over one report from one agency that they convinced themselves they were going to hear a knock at the door and open it up to find two commies with a dolly asking them to step aside. It was completely ridiculous. There was never much of anything to that one, but it got me to thinking, what if there had been? What if it had been a genuinely dangerous public health hazard? Would these people have reacted any differently? I don't think so, especially after COVID. And that's scary. It didn't used to be like that. We used to understand that's part of what government does. You know, the government used to be able to go, hey, y'all, turns out lead is real bad, and we're going to need to get rid of it. And then they just get rid of the lead. But I don't think that would happen today. If as long as a Democrat was in office, if they put out that lead report today, these same idiots would be all over social media with fistfuls of number 2 pencils like, come and take them, because they're too dumb to know that ain't the same thing. You know it would happen. And I mean, yeah, these people have always existed, just not in these numbers. I can remember growing up in the rural South when seatbelt laws became a thing. And yeah, I knew some old boys back then who were like, no, sir. I tell you right now, if I get drunk and lose a fight with a guardrail, the first responders are going to know I died like a man. I can promise you that. Like, they did exist, just not in these quantities. And it's scary. It also makes me grateful for the things the government got done before we reached this point as a society. Have y'all ever thought about the things we have that they would lose their minds over if they were new proposals today? You know they would. You know they'd be like, fire department. You want to use my money to pay for my neighbor's house not getting burned down? What, he can't afford buckets? Maybe he needs a better job then. And what, you're going to build a bridge over there? That's where the poor people live. Let them swim. It's good for them. Right? They're already pissed off that poor kids get free lunch in public school. You don't think they'd be upset at the notion of a free education if it was only just now coming up? Of course they would. Yep. Social Security and Medicare, forget it. They'd scoff at the notion. They'd be like, we already told y'all back in 2020 we're willing to let all the Meemaws die just to keep Dave and Buster's open. You really think we're going to go for that? Get out of here. Right? I mean, dude, the list goes on with them. You know, they'd be like, hold, let me get this straight. You want to use tax funds for a building that you're going to fill with books. Not guns, not cans of chili, books. That's what you want to do? Yeah, I don't think so. All right, you know it, and I guess I'm just saying I'm glad we got these things done, got them in under the wire before we as a society got hit by the dumb truck, you know? Of course, I mean, that's not to say that any of these things are actually safe. I mean, some of these people are starting to gun for them already. Some public libraries are coming under fire for having books where white people do bad stuff in them, and they've been closed down. You know, we all know they're gunning for Social Security and Medicare, so we got to stay vigilant, y'all, and do not let their hollering about these nonsensical thin air controversies distract you from the truly nefarious undertaking to which they are indeed fully committed. Love y'all.
Yes, we got hit by the dumb truck.
The Meemaws died to keep Dave and Buster's open.
That thing with gas stoves, though, that really was something, wasn't it? I mean, Fox News was all over it. Gas stoves. Now they're M&Ms because M&Ms decided to have an honoring women month, and so they put the female M&M characters on the bag, and this sent them into a complete and total meltdown about M&Ms and the feminism that is M&Ms. And the purple M&M was obviously an M&M of tolerance. It was an obese M&M, they decided. I mean, this is what they... And then all last week when we were out, because, you know, Brett had the COVID, which apparently doesn't exist in their world anymore because Meemaw can die to keep Dave and Buster's open in their world. Meemaw. But last week, they literally had you believing that communists were coming with moving trucks or with dollies, as he said, to take out your gas stove. What the F, people? And they literally had a debate about it for 5 freaking days on various news networks. Holy crapola, man. I'm telling you, this is just freaky to me. This is really freaky. And, you know, all these years, people have been calling me up going, you know, everybody's going to be a little sorry that we stopped teaching civics. You know, everybody's going to be a little sorry that we stopped teaching real American history. You know, people are going to be sorry that we didn't teach Schoolhouse Rock anymore. How a bill becomes a law, you know. And we just sat there and said, no, people will never forget how a bill becomes a law. They just won't. It's America, for God's sake, right? I mean, people won't forget that it wasn't until 1954 that In God We Trust was put on the dollar bill. People understand this isn't a Christian nation. They always have. They always will, right? Right? Whoops. Whoops. The dump truck has backed up and dropped its load on everybody. This nation is so backwards, it doesn't even know how a bill becomes a law. It doesn't understand what a debt ceiling is. It doesn't know that Joe Biden has put 194 federal judges on the bench in just 2 years. And today is his second anniversary. 194 federal judges. He got through confirmation. He got put on federal courts. Federal freaking courts. People just don't know. They really don't. They have no earthly idea. They forgot about Ketanji Brown Jackson being put on the Supreme Court, which just happened. They don't understand that only Congress can expand the size of the court. And that Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young, and in all their iterations, whether it was just Crosby, whether it was Crosby, Stills, Nash, whether it was Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young, whether it was just Neil Young, whether it was just Stills, whether it was just Graham Nash, there is an enormous body of work that celebrates the human condition and pushes back on a government that thought it was okay to shoot protesters at Kent State University. Wow. Robin in Alaska.
Wow, I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so, this Crosby, Stills, and Nash, that guy saying what he said about generations knowing him or not, you just have to educate yourself. Open your eyes.
Educate yourself. He's been putting out music like last year.
Yeah. It's like, if you're not aware of that, you must be sleeping. Okay, so that guy that was just speaking, I love him. This is the first time I ever have watched you and listened, and I'm in love with you.
No.
Girl, you're speaking my heart.
No.
Yeah, I'm here in Willow, Alaska. I'm looking at Mount McKinley, and it's still Mount McKinley to me. Okay, so what I wanted to say basically was just all this business about the abortion issue, and, if people... You got to look at it this way. If you are not helping foster children monetarily in your home, if you're not helping adopt these kids that have been through, could have been abortions, but they're living, if you're not helping foster kids, shut up.
Okay, so I just want to let you know, Robin, that, health care for women is not about adoption, okay? It's health care for women. Women literally die. They die because their fetuses have anomalies. Their fetuses have no brain. Their fetuses have their organs that are supposed to be in the stomach, develop in their chest cavity. Women die. They die.
Well, what I'm saying basically is the people that are even addressing the issue. Women should be allowed all health care. I'm for abortion. Sorry. I don't want to apologize for it. Some people have to have it for medical. Yeah, it's okay. We should be able to do it. What I'm saying is these people that are coming down so hard on everybody, if they're not part of the solution, they are part of the problem. And being part of the solution is putting your money where your mouth is. Go help these kids in places.
What kids?
That need to be helped because they could have been aborted. And, it's sad to say maybe some of them should have.
Okay. All right, then. You're going down a really dark, dank road about women's health care, okay? But let me just show you what it is that men of the white supremacy, white nationalist, Republican view see for us as a future, gender, okay?
The Missouri House just passed a rule requiring women members in the chamber to cover their arms. Need this in the U.S. House. We need that in the world. We need that in society, man. I'm so sick of seeing these women everywhere. They should be wearing burqas.
So that's Nick Fuentes, who introduced Paul Gosar and Marjorie Taylor Greene. at his white supremacist, get-together. This is his view about women's role in the society that is the United States of America. We should be wearing burqas. He's all about Missouri banning the right to bear arms if you are a female legislator. Don't you get it? It's an incremental march towards Gomorrah. They want us in complete chattel slavery again. Wake up, everybody.